So anyway, um, I went to all Catholic school from kindergarten to 10th grade, and 8 years of that was spent at one institution, St. Gabriel's in Washington, D.C. Now, in kindergarten, I used to walk to school by myself about 5 or 6 blocks away. It's a straight shot. It's easy to get there. And it was during a time when Washington, D.C. was in a transition. It was going through 3 different generations, actually. A lot of the ex-slaves were living there, but a lot of successful um, businesses were there too. Doctors and nursing, and there was Howard University, and there was a lot of successful enterprise going on in Washington, D.C. There were farmers markets, and the streetcars and buses all had friendly staff who gave you change if you gave them like a 5 or a 10 or a single dollar or something like that. They give you change so you could pay your fare to get on the bus. And they were actually very friendly. Um, so walking to school was not a big deal because there was this environment. And on the way to school, I would see soda bottles and stuff like that in the street sitting around. Back then, they had water trucks that would just come by and wash everything down in the sewer. But I would hide my books in the bushes at 5 years old and start doing recycling. I'd take the bottles to the grocery store and buy food and ice cream and candy. And for the first 3 months of school in kindergarten, I didn't make it to class. And it was at that time they had the parent teachers meeting. And during this meeting, it's like a meet and greet, and they get to show the parents what the curriculum has been doing and the results of tests and scores and who's the achievers and underachievers and so on and so forth. And we were made to answer for ourselves at 5 years old. I mean, if a teacher came in the classroom, everybody stood up and greeted them. Uh, Back then, they had nuns and priests, so we had to greet them as sisters and fathers, so and so. And the adults we addressed as Mr. and Mrs. And at this particular parent teachers meeting, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that my mom was going to find out that I hadn't been going to school, so I kind of made myself scarce. And like just within earshot of the conversation, just to see if maybe it was glossed over that I hadn't been showing up for class at 5 years old in kindergarten. And people that say that that was irresponsible of my mom don't know my neighborhood. I mean, my neighborhood, we knew everybody all the way up the block, and people took care of us. We went over different people's houses and ate, and um, the kids in those houses went to the same school. So it was like walking up the corridor of a village. Everybody knew who you were, what you were doing, and they'd spot you. During the day when things calmed down and died down, um, um, people like the grocers and the store owners and business owners knew who you were. And so you sort of got shunted like a drop on leaves falling from a tree to the ground, a lot more gently than those who speed hurling from earth hurling to earth from 50,000 feet and slam down on the concrete. We were gently ushered into our position. So some things got by adults. The more crafty children, I guess yours truly could be considered that, got over on the adults in crafty ways. I mean, what can we say? We went to Catholic school. Our excuse was always, oh, today's a holiday because of this saint's day or that saint's day or something like that. So there was always circumvention to the more ingenious children, I guess you could say. So I was cashing in bottles at grocery stores and walking around getting food. I think I eventually ended up to class every now and then. I remember one time going by the classroom and peeking in the windows and then leaving because the streets were desolate, man, back then. Everybody was at work during certain parts of the day. Nobody saw anyone. So at this parent teachers meeting, the teacher's talking to my mother and she's like, we're sorry that Stefan's been late and we're looking forward to him coming to class. And my mom's was asking, like, what do you mean coming to class? I send him to class every day on time. And she's like, what do you mean late? And she said, well, we haven't seen Stefan. She's like, he's right here. And everybody's looking for me. My mom's looking around and she's like, Stefan, get over here. And I was like, I gotta. And she said, what have you been doing? It's like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. This is your teacher. She says you haven't been coming to school. It's like, I've been going to work. My mom was like, going to work? Are you kidding me? No, no, you don't go to work. You go to school. You know, you guys, everybody, nobody could believe that I hadn't shown up to school for at least 3 months. But I mean, like I said, back then, responsibility was being responsible. We were wearing business casual in second grade, and we were held responsible for a lot of things. I was doing, I was serving funerals. I actually was seeing the deceased in second grade. What is that? Like 8 years old, 7 years old? I was seeing dead people, and I had to compose myself because I was an altar boy and we served at funerals in procession. And so there was a certain discipline. I mean, you couldn't wave at your friends walking down the aisle, you couldn't smirk and laugh. You had to control yourself in these temples of ceremony. So I spent a lot of time doing that, learning Latin. I mean, they were drilling us, man. Irresponsibility was like kids kissing in the dark in the corners in church at recess or something like that. You know, but we were monitored. We were filed. Back then, you got spankings. I mean, they tanned your hide if you didn't behave yourself back then. Tanning your hide meant changing it to another color from the whelps on it. So it's sort of like the discipline back then was more militaristic, if anything. I don't even think the military did what we went through. But at any rate, seeing the X-Men and X-Humans at an early age sobers you up real fast. I can't really say it prepares you for life, but there was a certain amount of desensitivity that went along with that. Yet at the same time, uh, we were being injection molded in preparation for social dissemination.